Good morning, friends, and happy Saturday to you and yours and wherever you might be. Welcome to Cichlids Coffee. Today's cup is from the extravaganza, the Ohio Cichlid Association. You can make that out. Very nice cup. They gave it to me after I gave a talk up there. Oh, yeah. Hope you're having a cup of your favorite beverage. And hope you have a great weekend planned. I've been very busy, as you might imagine, in everything going on here. And tomorrow I'm going to get a visit from our friend Whip, who's going to be stopping by and visiting the fish room and bringing a young female red tear. And are you glad I finished that sentence? So he's bringing a red tear that I'm going to have to grow out because she's a little small right now. So I've got a place picked out for her, and we'll let her put on some size, and then maybe I'll let her live in the 210 for a little bit, see how she gets along in there, and then ultimately I'll put her together with the big boy, my big red tear, and see if they get along, see how that goes. So, Whip, drive safely, my friend, and I'll see you when you get here. So we have Adam in the house, Cat Sailor, and Angelo, and ex-colleague Kev. Hey, colleague. Great group of fish keepers, as I often say. Let's see if anybody else is sneaking in. Hi, Robin. Good to see you. By the way, I sent out some stickers and coasters and stuff like that. If you were expecting one and haven't received it yet, and you don't have it by Tuesday of this coming week, just send me an email at ben.o.cichlid and let me know. Let me know you haven't gotten it yet, okay? And because sometimes, I don't know what happens. People don't get them. And I will go ahead and either resend or track it or whatever. So let's see here. Robin is in sunny North Carolina. Very cool. Tropical storm Debbie. Hope you weathered that okay. My son was pretty much locked down over in Fort Myers with these torrential rainstorms. And how is the AV? Can I get an AV check? Let me see. Did one of you already give me an AV check and I didn't see it? Let's see. Hey, Kendall G. Kent. Hey, Kent in the house? Wilfred's here. Wilfred Jimenez. Good to see you, Wilfred. From Florida. I would assume that you are of Latin descent. I have a lot of friends down there that speak Spanish. Muchos puertorriqueños que son amigos. Brandon Lightcap in the house. Good to see you, Brandon. All right, more people are coming in. Did I say hi to you, Adam? I hope so. Hey, Denny. Good to see you there, buddy. One of my wonderful moderators, along with Whip. I've got the best moderators on YouTube, I like to say. Sundar in the house? Someone is screaming Sundar. Sundar in the house. Michael's here. All right. Good group. Kent says, have you ever been empty out on small sinking pellets? I'm sitting here grinding some pleco, that must probably pellet, to dust for the shrimps and the corridoras. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. With my baby, I've got, I don't know, 50 baby plecos? And I always take the pellets, I break them up. And otherwise, you try and get 50 of them on top of one pellet. It's a little bit crazy. Ken says the AV is good. Thank you for that, my friend. I appreciate it. So we have some fun stuff to talk about, and I have a preview of a video that's going to be released at 3 o'clock today. And that video is going to go over the process that I went through to get the tanks behind me in place. Those are the let me adjust this volume just a little bit. Those are the tanks from my friends at Glass Cages, and so I am now liberated. I am clamp free. Oh boy, am I glad I'm out of those things. I kept bumping into them. You know, you bend over to get something, you go to adjust a timer or something, and I don't know, and you just get up and boom, there it is, you know. And I must have bumped. I probably have a mark on my back, left shoulder blade from banging into it, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just goofy, but I'm glad they're out of here. I have more walking room here, and now I've got two big 55-gallon Aquariums sitting on their side. I had a good friend of mine come over here and help me move everything. And it was quite the process, you know, in making sure that the fish were pulled out of the old tanks and immediately, you know, put into something that was immediately ready for them and could handle the bioload, and then bring them back in as little stress as possible. There was one neon blue rainbow that didn't survive the process, but that rainbow was already off a bit before the whole process started. He was hanging around the top, and he had something going on. I'm not sure what it was. All the other ones are rock solid. All the other fish made it, including the little teeny, more sensitive fish like the ember tetras and neons, which can be a little dicey. They all did great. But and I'm going to show you more detail here. I'm also going to play for you a preview of a video that's going to be released this afternoon that goes over the process in better detail. Now, do you folks remember this angle, this view? This was the view on when I first moved to Tennessee. This was the live stream view. Sometimes people thought this was one tank behind me, but it is two tanks. I'm sitting right where they separate. But it's when I first got here, all I had were the 255-gallon Aquariums, and so this was the angle of the live stream, and I kind of like it. I kind of like the width of it, even though sitting in front of the bigger tanks can be fun, you know, with those giant fish coming in and out of the frame. But I do like this angle too, and so let me let's see here. Let's go ahead and do the official start. What do you say? Let me see. I can find that here. There it is. Okay, here we go. Let's make it official. All right, we are official now. So I'll be taking up your questions. Be sure if you have a question for me to start it with the words Ben Ochart, and that way it highlights on the comments, and I'll be sure to see it and I can answer your question. So let's do a couple real quick bill paying here. And for those of you who use Amazon, and who doesn't use Amazon really, get over to Amazon using this link. If you arrive at Amazon, you'll arrive at my fish keeping store, but then you can jump out of that store and go anywhere you want on Amazon. And what that'll do is it'll go ahead and support the channel. Any purchase you make on Amazon will give a small, and I mean microscopic, but still it helps, a small percentage to the channel. So consider using that link to get to Amazon, and it would be very, very appreciated if you did. And also a big shout out to my friend Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. He's created a special discount code for you. 15% off on all fish using ben.o.15. 10% off on all dry goods, including his great food at ben.o.10. So check out Josh at Cunningham Tropicals. And a big, giant shout out to those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis by being a Patreon. Starts for as little as $3 a month. Details are in the description. It really helps. You would think, well, gee, $3, what difference? It makes a difference. It adds up, depending on the number of members. And you can do more than 3 if you want. I'm not going to stop you. But by the way, if you're a Patreon member, there's a new edition of Behind the Camera that I posted a couple days ago. If you haven't read that, check it out. Just a little update, sort of a vlog, or I guess more like a blog of what is going on. So check that out, the recent edition of Behind the Camera. Also, if you would like to pick up some channel swag like coffee cups and sweatshirts and what have you, visit the Teespring store. All of these links are in the description under the video. Any support you provide is greatly appreciated and helps me cover the ongoing cost of what it is that's going on here. Even though I'll admit I do have some wonderful supporters, I'm not going to lie, I do have some folks that help me out, including Josh and Aquarium Co-op. I mean, they help me out a lot, and I want to shout out to Zenzo and to Corey for their help. And they just sent me a box. Some of you that don't know that Aquarium Co-op does this, but they carry a lot of products that are not just Aquarium Co-op products. And let me get their logo out of my face. But they just sent me a box with some salt, which is my first attack on anything going on. Fritz A+ aquarium salt. Vitachem. I use it after every water change. They always include a cool sticker. Pretty better. And they sent me some extreme, some of the big fella stuff, and some of the monster. Look at the size of those. Monster pellets for the Oscars and the much bigger fish. So thank you, Corey, Zenzo, Candy, all the great group over at the Aquarium Co-op. All right, so let's see here. Hey, Z-Zip in the house. Kingdom, I got a red catfish. 27 inches? Wow, yeah. That's a big cat. That's a big cat. Is it 2.7? No, it's 27. That's a massive cat. What kind of cat is that? Branton Lightcap. Ben, did you ever look into dosing food directly with the Vitachem? I usually just drop it right in the water column for the full size of the aquarium. It's a teaspoon for every 50 gallons or 1 drop per gallon. So that's the way I've been doing it. It probably wouldn't hurt to soak pellets and put a little Vitachem in there. Probably wouldn't hurt at all. I think it's a great way to deliver, as well as meds. You know, when you're giving meds to your fish, dosing the food is not a bad way to go. Michael says AV is perfect. Thank you, Michael. So let's take a look at the new tanks. What do you say? And I'm going to go ahead and get up and turn around and just show you, or maybe I can do it by staying put. But let me turn off the lights, and they'll remove some of the glare off of the tanks. Okay, so let me set that up. I'll use my Be Right Back screen, which I never use. All right, so I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I'm going to remove the camera from the tripod here, and if you hear a crash and we get disconnected, just hang in there. I'll be back. Let's see here. I got to make sure I have the cabling set up so I can move everything. Okay, there we go. We'll start here with the hold on. Okay, we'll start here with the 55. And you can see I have some little embers down there, little ember tetras, if you can make them out. These were fish that were in the 29-gallon, and they were there as a hospital. Well, it started as a quarantine, then turned into a hospital tank because some ick broke out. But the ick was long gone, and I was ready to bring them over to this tank. But lo and behold, this tank needed to be replaced, and so I left everybody in there. And all of these fish, the little embers, the neons, the rummy nose. Let me get a close up. Hold on. Yeah, that's a little better. So I got a good little group of neons, and they survived all the commotion and the little ember tetras as well, naturally. And then I got the neon blue rainbows that you're familiar with. And then, of course, we got some raspberries. You'll notice I've got a lot of schooling fish. I love the fish that school and stay together. And you'll notice that the aquarium has a very simple design, sweeping from an open swim space on the left side, and then working its way into a busier combination of wood and plants. Driftwood that was in this tank in the 55 already, but also driftwood that was brought over from the other 29. There's more details in the video that's going to be out at 3 o'clock, but I like the way it came out. You can tell me what you think if you like the way it turned out. You can see the number of snails in there, and I was shocked at how many snails I actually have, how many of these pagodas I actually have. And in the video, you'll see that I actually saved dozens of small snails. When I started removing substrate, they would work their way to the surface of where I was storing the substrate. And so I was like pulling out snails the size of a period at the end of a sentence. I mean, I must have pulled out 30 or 40 of them. You'll also notice the very top there, usually at the top right, I have some of those 24 karat gold. They're just hanging out at the top right corner. But these fish are all looking good, doing good. There's some cories in here that are hiding. You also have a couple albino and I think a regular bushy nose pleco. But let me know what you think about the design. I didn't use the aquarium co-op heaters. I went with the Aqueon heaters. These are 100-watt Aqueons that I had laying around. They're plugged into a controller. Now, this was all done with existing materials that I had in the fish room, which answers the question, which I'll talk more about in the video this afternoon. But why didn't I go with a 300-gallon? Why didn't I put an 8-foot tank on this wall? Well, the truth is that I didn't want to get into all the filtration and substrate and everything else that would be needed. And so I just went with existing materials and probably saved a couple $1,000s in aquariums and stands and everything else. But I went with a very simple design. And you can tell me what you think. But I like the look of it. Let's take a look at its neighbor. You can see I went very simple here as well. And in the video this afternoon, I'll talk about the differences between these tanks and the Aqueon tanks. The differences are just huge. I can move a 55-gallon Aqueon tank by myself. I can leverage it and somehow get it into position without a problem. I could not move one of these glass cage 55-gallon tanks. The way they've reinforced the glass on the bottom, the thickness of the glass, they probably weigh, I suspect, twice as much. I found some old plants that I had laying around, old artificial plants, because of course red tear would destroy or dig up anything in the substrate. But I was able to create an area for the red tear to hide. He loves being behind something. He loves being undercover. No, that's not a real plant, buddy. So he's pushing around that plant. It's on a little rock base. He's pushing that one around. The other two have big bottom, slate bottoms. So I think he's going to have trouble moving those around. But he's already created a big pit on the left side of the aquarium below the internal filter. So he's got a big pit there that he can hide in. Just a beautiful fish. Got him from Whip. Look at that. Redecorating. He's trying to move that plant around. But again, a very simple design. I did use the aquarium co-op heaters. I'm not concerned that they'll fail because they are plugged into a controller that will turn off the power if there's any kind of a surge. So tell me what you think in the comments of this setup. And for the details on how it was all done, check out the video today at 3 o'clock. I'll show you a short preview of it. Let me go ahead and get the live stream set up again, including the microphone, which is no longer attached to the table. I'm holding it in my hand. So this is going to be an acrobatic feat. But hold on. All right. Let me adjust the camera. I think we're back. So let's see if you have any questions or comments so far. Adam thinks it looks great. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, Michael, that red tear is something. He's a special fish, and as I mentioned, he was a gift from Whip, and we're going to try and get him hooked up. Tamara, were you at the live stream last week? I showed a picture of your tank and your coffee cup. I hope you got to see that. Hey, Jim's Fish. Hi to you. I am going through the chat. Any questions, go ahead and hit me, and then I'm going to show you a video, just an introduction of just a preview of the video that's coming out this afternoon. Ron, looking for a pair. Hey, Whip, maybe you can tell Ron where you got your red tears from. Maybe you can help him score a couple red tears. All right, so let's take a look here at a preview of the video that's going to be released this afternoon. While you're watching it, I'll work on this microphone so I don't have to be holding it with my hand, which is starting to lose feeling. All right, here we go. It's a great day here in the fish room, and I'll tell you why. I'm not going to be banging my myself against these things anymore. These two clamps were holding together the top of my 55-gallon Aqueon tanks. Those tanks have now been replaced by tanks of the exact same dimension, the tanks that are behind me here, from my friends over at Glass Cages. It was a big job. I'm actually a little bit exhausted, to tell you the truth. And it had a lot of parts, a lot of things that had to be done, and they had to be done perfectly, or I stood to lose a lot of fish. So the first step was of course getting those tanks drained and able to move them, right? So I had to take all the fish out and put them into a holding tank, someplace that they could be and not be stressed out, but be there comfortably with minimum stress. There's always going to be some stress when you move fish, but I was able to move the fish, the fish that were in the 55, along with as many snails as I could save and plants, were all moved to a 29-gallon that was serving as a quarantine tank. That 29-gallon, the fish in it had gone through a bout of ick, and that had been completely cleaned up for quite some time. And if the tanks hadn't been broken on the top, I would have moved those fish in the 29-gallon to the 55. But instead, I took everything in the 55, all the plants, fish, and snails, and put them into the 29-gallon to keep the beneficial bacteria that was in the filter alive. I hung that massive Marineland Imperial 400 or what, just a massive hang on back onto that 29-gallon. It looked, you can see it just looked awkward, almost as wide as the tank. And I had to use pieces of plastic to make sure that the fish wouldn't jump out on me. But the good news is everybody seemed to do okay in there, and I also worked at keeping the substrate alive. The substrate that I wanted to use in the new project, which is the gray pebbles, and I kept that alive by just adding an air stone and some aquarium water. And so any bacteria that was on that substrate, of course the bacteria that wasn't killed from moving it, and which of course always knocks off bacteria, but a lot of it did stay alive. And when it was sitting in that little container, a large number of my pagoda snails of all sizes, mostly the medium and small and very small pagoda snails, came to the surface, and I must have saved, like, I don't know, 25 or 30 of them.
So there you go. There's a preview. Can you believe how small those little pagoda snails were? I mean, literally like the period at the end of a sentence. And I just can't believe how many I pulled out that were working their way to the surface after I had removed the substrate and put it into a container to keep it alive. So it was just anyway. You'll get the full experience this afternoon if you want to watch that video, and it'll get into everything that occurred. All right, so how y'all doing? Let's see here. Ron thinks it looks awesome. Thank you, buddy. Great looking aquarium. Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it. Sundar, you're right. I probably should set up a Tanganykan aquarium, but I'm kind of like I've got kind of a full agenda. I mean, the next thing I'm going to be doing is knocking off the tops of the old Aqueons and replacing the tops. I'm going to be putting that 60-gallon acrylic tank into play somewhere in here. I'm going to be converting the 90-gallon into a discus tank. So there's a lot of moving parts, but yeah, Tanganyika. Denny's got a nice Tanganyika setup going. I think Jerry's Fish Room, he's got some Tanganyikans going. William, the filters that are being used are on the 55-gallon planted. What you have going on there is just a Marineland Emperor 400. That's all that's on there. I think in the video that is coming out this afternoon, I call it an Imperial 400. I was very tired. Please forgive me. Marineland doesn't have a new filter called an Imperial. It is an Emperor 400, and I might be adding a sponge, hiding it in the back corner, only because I can put one of those lithium battery powered air pumps that, in the event of a power outage, it can keep getting oxygen, right? So I might do that. We'll see. Yeah, I noticed there was a little bit of a graveliness in the video that was played, right? So I'm going to go ahead and tweak that before the video gets released this afternoon, see what the heck was going on there. I just noticed that during the playback. Hey, Raisin Fishes, glad you're here. Yeah, I think there might have been an oversaturation having to do with what they call bit rate and things of that nature with the sound. I'll go ahead and check that out before I actually post the video. But you were able to get a little bit of a preview. They were sold, Tamara. Those snails were sold to me as pagoda snails. And I've had people tell me, hey, those are rabbits. No, they're not rabbit snails. I've seen rabbit snails. Maybe you like them. I don't like rabbit snails. I don't like the way they look. The pagodas are very clean, and they have beautiful stripes and different patterns as you circulate down the body of the snail. Just a beautiful snail, in my opinion. I started with one, and now they just went crazy. They just go crazy and just keep producing babies. All right. Okay, if you have a question for me, go ahead and hit me now. The sound during the regular broadcast, what I'm saying right now, is very clear, right? And by the way, if anybody did a super chat, I did not notice it when I was moving equipment around. For those of you not familiar, you can do a super chat by going to the bottom. And as I like to joke, throwing a little money at the dancer. So, okay. Okay, any other question? Okay, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. So the red tear, I took the internal filter that's in the red tear tank right now and dropped it into a 29-gallon that used to be a sump on the 210-gallon. So by moving over that filter, which was very loaded with with beneficial bacteria, and then putting it into a tank with conditioned water, I had an instantly cycled tank. I just made sure that the temperatures were matched, and then I was just able to grab the red tear from the old Aqueon 55, put them into the 29, and then go ahead and do the transition. And that worked out. That worked out well. All the fish ended up weathering all the movement and the transitions. They're actually a little bit more more rugged than you think. I mean, the key thing, of course, is having some established beneficial bacteria, which I was able to do with both substrate and with media that was inside of filters, and also trying to come close on your temperature matching. And so I think I was able to minimize the amount of shock that they went through. Hey, Caesar. Caesar in the house. Caesar Betancourt, good to see you. You'll notice, Caesar, that with my 55-gallon planted, I removed all the sand. I've got a large bucket of sand sitting right here on the left, white sand. I took all the sand, probably 50 pounds of sand, which mixed with the water is very heavy. I'm going to have to figure out how to get it out of here. But I took all that white sand out. Now, why is that? Mostly because I had just watched a video by Corey at the Aquarium Co-op where we talked about how, in general, plants seem to do a little bit better in gravel. And it makes sense that the roots would be able to work their way through a little bit more easily, both for growth and also for accessing food in the form of waste that can get trapped in between the gravel. So it made sense to me, so I pulled out all the sand. Now, that being said, when I took out the sand of the 55-gallon, there were some plants that had run like the jungle val, right? It had run 5, 6, 7 inches of roots underneath the sand. So I don't think sand entirely stops growth, but it just made sense to me that a gravel, a smaller size gravel, larger than sand, is going to do a better job at helping the plant. So I went ahead and I switched. Ron, yes, that it is very clear glass. It is iron, low, what they call either low iron, or I believe you might be using a what they call sapphire glass, which is, if you've ever watched any of my trips to glass cages, sometimes they'll have sheets of glass laying side by side, and the sapphire and the low iron is way different from traditional glass. The traditional glass looks like it's almost solid green next to the low iron and the sapphire glass. So there is a big difference. And the sapphire glass, believe it or not, I have heard, is actually more see-through than acrylic. And one of the big advantages of acrylic is that you do have a more see-through surface, right? It's a more see-through material than glass normally, but I've heard sapphire glass is as good or better. Of course, acrylic is a lot lighter and easier to move, and I heard it's better at maintaining temperature. Acrylic has a lot of advantages. It also has a lot of cost. So, but I like acrylic tanks. And by the way, the folks at Glass Cages are making acrylic tanks now. Michael is keeping red rainbows and other trophies from Lake Tanzania. Really fun to keep. Yep. Yep. I know that Denny, Denny loves his, he really loves the fish he has, and his Tanganicans especially, and his Shelleys, and he just loves those fish. Tamara, I like my snails. I imagine if you're being overrun by a bunch of very common snails, you could pick up some clown loaches and they would take care of them very quickly. But I like the snails. I keep them, and I love these the pagoda snails. I mean, they're like a piece of decor. I think they're just so pretty. And if I get too many of them,
I can take those. You're welcome, Caesar. I can take those pagoda snails to the aquatic critter. They'll give me a store credit because they are a very coveted, very sought after snail. Ex-colleague Kev says Lucas likes sand better for plants. Well, there you go. You know? And I like Lucas. I respect Lucas. He's a good guy. And I'm sure he's being sincere. Keith, I appreciate the comment, but I have no interest in being the next president of the United. Do you know why? And this is not talking about any particular, I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm not a good liar. You could tell instantly if I was telling you something that I didn't think was true. And I learned that from my mom. I could never fool her. There were certain tells that would show up on my face. I'm a terrible liar. So I would never do well in politics. Fake plants, Jim M. I have gone over this a few times with in the past, and it's a sad story. But my plant supplier had a loss. They lost mom, who was the heart and soul of the business, and so they shut down. They were called Elite Cichlids. Great company, great group of people. They used to be florists. They took their beautiful sensibility about making flower arrangements and they put it into plants and created some wonderful plants. But then they went out of business. You can find some good selections at the Aquarium Co-op. I'm sure Super Cichlid sells some. I'm sure you can pick them up also on Amazon and eBay. Brandon, I use that. I actually use that and the root tabs. And what I do is I just dump 3 or 4 of them in the aquarium. They'll start floating, and then I just grab them from floating and jam them down in the substrate around the planted areas. And instead of having to like reach into the little container each time, I just dump 3 or 4, 5 or 6 into the aquarium. Now you got to do it quick because the outside of the capsule will start to disintegrate, will start to melt. So, but you're right. I mean, sometimes you shove them in to the substrate and they pop right back up and they start floating again, and they can be a bit of a pain. But once you get them in there, I think they do a good job with the plants. I'm also using the pump, the Easy Green liquid pump from Aquarium Co-op. Oink Master in the house. Hello, Oink Master. I haven't seen you in a while. You are missed. No, I do not have experience with that, but I bet you somebody here does. So if you have experience with this fish that Oink Master Supreme Forever is talking about, can you please go ahead and chime in and let's help her out with that oddball fish. I love oddball fish. I lost my whiptail a while back. I'd like to go ahead and get another one at some point. I agree, Wake Master, Supreme Forever. I would, unfortunately, there probably was a time in our history when somebody thought it was the right thing to do and went and did the right thing, but even if you go way back in our history and the history of other countries, politics has always been a very dirty game, and they play very dirty, and I don't like it.
I am outspoken in other platforms about my my feelings. I think that there's a lot we got to fix, but at any rate, yeah, yep. Now, is anybody going to watch Lucas in that? Aren't they going to have some sort of fish fight or something? There's going to be a battle that that Joey is coordinating. I think John KG Tropicals is going to be moderating or announcing. There's going to be some big fight going on, actually in a ring, and oh my goodness. I was actually approached. They said if I wanted to get involved in that, and I said, well, you know, you have to remember I'm almost 70, so I probably get a bad cramp climbing into the ring. So I do ride a bike and exercise, but that's very different from delivering blows and receiving blows. Oh, who's going to watch that? Who's going to watch that? Is it what, Fins of Fury? I think it's called Fins of Fury. Anybody here going to watch that? Raising fishes. I'm really enjoying my dirted tank using the father fish method. And those let's see, tanks are just thriving without any fertilizers or root tabs. They're actually doing better than my other planted tanks. There you go. So are you, did you go to a local stream and pick up some stuff? Did you go there and pick up like leaves and a little bit of dirt, some twigs? Did you go the whole father fish route? Or are you using like some of it but not all of it? I mean, I'd be curious how precise were you in following his methods? I like father fish. I think he's very cool. And I love the way he attempts at mimicking the actual, you know, nature, which makes total sense, right? Hey, Lady Diane in the house. Well, Lady Diane, it goes way back, doesn't it? And it goes all the way down to one-on-one to giant armies. And so it is if you could eradicate that from the brains of the species, I think we'd probably be better off, right? Okay, haha, I hope he knocks Joey clean out, Midi Mac. Oh boy. Are they offering odds? Do they have a betting? Are there Vegas odds? Adam says he's going to be watching. All right. Fins of Fury. Sounds like a kung fu movie filmed at a goldfish farm. So all right. Raising fishes. No, I bought is his dirt substrate, then sand capped, then working on resurrection jars. Okay. Very cool. Amazing. Yeah, Lady Dan, I think it goes back to that, probably right all the way back to Neanderthal. Oh. I don't know how old you are, Lady Diane, but there's a great movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it showed the monkeys discovering the use of sticks as a tool. So they used it to like do something with it, and then the next thing they did was they started bashing each other's skulls in. Oh. All right, let's see here. Ex-Kalikev, Lucas all the way. Lucas is a good guy. I did a collaboration with him. I think it's on his channel, and I did speak with him at Aquashella. Just a really nice guy. Really nice guy. I met his family. Just as sweet. You know, Jim, I agree. I agree. Half Man, Half Cichlid was one of the first folks that I started watching when I first got into YouTube. He had an office with a very large cichlid tank, and it was set up. It was spectacular, and I like his tanks now, and his massive 100-gallon sump, and I like what he's doing now. But that tank he had when I first started watching him, and I think he had to move or do something, I forget. And then he got this giant bow front, but man, oh man, he had a giant. Anyway, it was just beautiful, and it was just mind blowing. It really kind of set the bar real high. Oink Master Supreme forever. That fight will be taking place in Long Island, about 2.5 hours from home. If I didn't have a prior engagement that day, I might have to go to see the. Well, it would be fun just to kind of meet all the YouTubers that are going to be there. Whether you are a supporter of pugilistic of men watching men beat each other up, I don't know how hard they're going to go. I mean, you'd hate to see somebody really hurt. So I think it's a fundraiser, right? Isn't it a fundraiser? So there you go, Lady Diane. So you know what I'm talking about. And I think we both just dated ourselves. Because I think it came out, what, in the, was it late 60s? I think it came out. I went to go see it at what was called Cinerama Dome in Los Angeles, one of the first wraparound, and it was amazing. Alan Parsons has a big salt tank at his house. What is this about, ex-colleague Kev? Is Alan Parsons are you talking about the music industry producer? All right. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead and hit me. A lively discussion. I'm going to go ahead and tweak the sound on that video that I showed you a sample of, and hopefully I'll get it cleaned up in time to release the full video this afternoon. It's let me see if I can find the thumbnail for it. Hold on, please. I'm checking something. So this is the thumbnail for the video this afternoon. Watch for it if you can. No more clamps. Do I look happy? I was happy, and I was very exhausted. But that will be the... assuming I can clean up that audio. If I can't clean up that audio, I might have to wait till tonight and kind of overdub it or something. We'll see. Paul Newman? Alan Parsons, I believe, was the engineer on Dark Side of the Moon. Do I need to say anything else? Lady Diane busting down tanks? Why are you busting down tanks? I've got 4 empty so far. That's a big job. Where are you busting down tanks? Are you moving? You know, Whip, I love frontoses. I think they're beautiful. I think they're a very mellow fish.
I think that they don't get the love that they deserve. You don't really see them in a lot of videos. Some people might think they're plain because of the simple black and white, but the spider is beautiful. There's a blue version. There's I think fronts are amazing. Also, the fact that they can last 30 years. I mean, come on. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Whip. Hope you have a little time to spend the fish room. Maybe we'll fire up the camera, have a little conversation about fish keeping that we can then share with everybody, if that sounds good to you. We'll see when you get here. Lady Diane, please don't put toothpicks in your eyes. All right, let's see here. All right. So are you all questioned out? No more questions for me. Dennis Engel has joined us. Alan Parsons from the Parsons Project. He passed away years ago. Alan Parsons was a sound engineer and had his own band, but I believe his work in the studio was his. I mean, the guy was a musical genius. What can you say? Good, Whip. Very, very cool. Now, I'm not sure if we're talking about the same Parsons, and the only reason I say that is I think there's a gentleman named Rick Beato on YouTube. I think he recently did a Rick Parsons, he did an Alan Parsons interview. So I don't know if we're talking about the same one, but anyway, Google that. Let's Google it and see what happens. All right, so before we end off, let's go ahead and take a quick look. Since I'm on a very close tripod, hold on one second. You know, in the middle of everything I was doing, I also had to, of course, continue maintenance on all the other tanks. This one is due for a water change. The 200-gallon Central and South American is doing great. Look at that fire mouth, just beautiful. That Vieja that you see there is featured in the Cichlid Charmers video that was, I believe, released this morning. Check out the Cichlid Charmers channel, and you will see that Vieja that you see right in the middle of your screen. He's talking about Viejas in his video. If we go the other direction, and there's the 90-gallon. Everybody in there is doing fine. Big old red spotted Severum. I'm probably going to take those Buenos Aires Tetras that are in there because they create a lot of crazy motion, and probably take them to the local fish store. The rainbows are just getting massive and beautiful. But I do want to make, as you know, I do want to make this into a
into a discus tank. It's a 90-gallon rimless. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Now let me see if I can spin this all the way around and show you the 300. There's a 300-gallon. That little zebra rock, that little zebra black or gray and white rock that is in the new planted aquarium was stolen from this tank. It was sitting on the left here, and it kind of stood out a little bit. Sort of didn't match. So I go ahead and pulled it, and I'm using it in the 55-gallon planted. So all those guys are doing great. Let's swing this thing back around and get the lights back on. But there you go. A tour of the fish room. Get the lights back on. Didn't Alan Parsons do I'm So Into You? I'm so into you. I'll start singing and you'll never see a live stream empty out faster. All right, let's see here. Thank you, Lady Diane. I'm glad you like them. Oink Master, it's so funny because sometimes you can get a fish, and I'm experiencing that right now with my albino acaras. They're I have been told that they can be a little bit blind and have trouble getting at the food. Another reason why I want to take the Buenos Aires tetras out of there. But the from time to time, you just get a fish that is a little bit fragile. And I have had that occur with several fish over the years. And it can be a little frustrating, and you don't quite know what to do with it. You can pull them out. You can run them through a regimen of meds. You can use a little salt. You can do a variety of things, and you end up with the fish in the same condition, and then you realize that what you have is a fish that has a little bit of a just a fragile. They're just not a real hardy fish, and I've seen that with all fish. I've seen that with cichlids that develop things while all the other fish are thriving. One cichlid starts to waste away. I've seen it with so yeah, it happens. It happens, and you can drive yourself crazy worrying about what am I doing? Am I doing something wrong? Is there a nutrient I can't? Provide the full spectrum that you can, right? Provide clean water, do your water changes. I add the Vitachem, right? I do everything. I add good quality ingredients right in the food. I do everything I can to make them as healthy as I can, as colorful as and give them as good a life as I can. And sometimes you get a genetic anomaly, and you just can't just beat yourself up about it. You have to okay, this one's a little bit off. So at any rate, yeah, do what you can, but if it just continues to get fragile, you may have to put him in a tank by himself, because fish do have a tendency to jump on the weaker ones and pick on them, especially if it's cichlids. And and you know, act accordingly. Denny Riddell says, new 75-gallon Tanganykan rock dweller aquarium, doing great. Used Fritzyme 7, added 12 juvenile rock dweller Tanganyikans, haven't had any losses after 2 weeks. Yeah, you know, it's the first 48 hours. That's that's the you know, I'm watching the tank like a hawk for that first 48 hours after you do something really major, swapping out substrate, adding a bunch of new fish, adding a new aggressive fish to a cichlid tank. I mean, you watch it like a hawk, right? And then after 48 hours, you're probably in good shape. Now, in the adding of fish, that is assuming that you put that fish through at least 30 days of quarantine, because some diseases can take a while to show up. And when they do show up, they can devastate an aquarium. So do quarantine your fish for 30 days. I speak from very hard-won experience. Whip, you didn't tell me that. Maybe we should call this Red Tear Jack Dempsey. Or maybe we'll call him Rocky Marciano. I've got my gar has a jaw that's a little bit off. Not sure if it was from a lip lock or maybe a deformity of some kind, but his jaw is not sitting perfectly straight. Of course, they have that large extended jawline. All right. Any more questions? Now, of course, if I do breed that red tear, the question then becomes, what do I do with all the fry? But I do have a very accommodating local fish store that will take fish from me, and they probably would take red tear, young red tears at, you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Because I'm certainly not set up for, you know, 100 red tears. And if you've ever seen a female red tear, you are going to fall in love. I would put them in the same category of beauty as the female Salvini with the red belly. They are comparable in how beautiful they are. If the breeding project doesn't work there, and that female red tear, having spent time in the 210, turns out to be okay in the 210, then down the road there would be a possibility of just keeping the female, but and then offering that red tear to somebody, the male. But we'll see where that goes. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Whip. You just don't see that many of them. I mean, look how long it was for you to find that female. Okay, my friends, I really appreciate you folks stopping in, and check out the video this afternoon if you can. Share the link. Be sure to do all the thumbs up and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I think we're over the hour, so we will go ahead and wrap this up. But I really want to thank my moderators and my all of you that are Patreon monthly supporters. Thank you so much for that. And all of you who spend an hour with me on Saturdays, you are very, very appreciated. And sorry about all the jumping around today, moving cameras around and what have you, but hey, that's all part of being live. It's a lot better than it was when I first started going live and the camera was upside down for 10 minutes. Oh my goodness. All right, my friends, you're the best. You rock. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.